Good afternoon, and welcome to Live Healthy Miami Gardens Facebook Live weekly health and wellness series brought to you by the City of Miami Gardens, Live Healthy Miami Gardens. My name is KeTia Harris. I'm Community Health Data Specialist at Jessie Trice Community Health System, Program Manager for our Breastfeeding Touchpoint Program with Live Healthy Miami Gardens, and your host for today. The goal of our weekly wellness series is to bring our community information and resources to help us make the healthiest choices possible for ourselves as a Miami Gardens community and our families. Live Healthy was born from the realization that although health is largely influenced by our individual choices, the conditions in the communities where we live, learn, work, worship, and play also play major contributing factors to the racial and ethnic health disparities and healthcare disparities faced, as well as our overall ability to make healthier choices. We know that these conditions are systemic, historical, and continue to impact us as communities of color and as a whole here and now. Live Healthy Miami Gardens is a community initiative and part of the city's efforts to address these conditions and reduce poor health outcomes through the transformation of our policies, our environment, and the healthcare system overall, making the city of Miami Gardens a healthier place to be. Today, we're switching the topic from breast pumps, and we'll be discussing disaster preparedness and breastfeeding. So if you go to the next slide, on our next slide, um, oops. So on this slide, we're talking about getting ready. If you haven't seen it on the news yet, we've seen evidence of Ian on his way with the rain, wind, and some flooding in some of our areas. This is just an image from the National Hurricane Center and Central Pacific Hurricane Center of what to expect in the upcoming days, if not hours. As we prepare for Hurricane Ian, today we'll be sharing breastfeeding tips and resources for families. So on the next slide, we'll see tip number one. Before anything else, we need to wash our hands, whether we're a breastfeeding baby or formula feeding baby. The first thing we want to ensure is that, especially when it comes to some of the disasters that come with hurricane, the risk is that our environments become less sanitary than what we are like it to be. So the first thing is to wash our hands before breastfeeding infant, before preparing the formula for infant. Use it, and with that, using soap and safe water. Safe is in quotation marks, not because it's like safe water. No, actually safe water, but safe as in if it's not bottled, if it's not filtered, then make sure it's boiled. Make sure it's treated on water or disinfected water, whatever would fall under that category of safe. We don't want to use, of course, we don't want to use dirty water or unsafe water. So just making sure it's either bottled, boiled, treated, including disinfected or filtered. If soap and safe water aren't available, go ahead and use alcohol-based hand sanitizers containing 60% alcohol. So the next tip is to simply breastfeed. The CD's, I'm sorry, let me back up. So breastfeeding does remain the best option for infants, especially those who are who haven't been exposed to solids from 0 to 6 months. The CDC recognizes breastfeeding as the best infant feeding option in a natural disaster situation, as baby receives antibodies and essential nutrients from mom's breast milk that protect baby from diseases. Because of this, of course, breastfeeding also reduces healthcare costs as there are fewer sick visits or fewer needs for sick visits. Breast milk and feeding are also convenient and cost saving, as availability of clean water, availability of money, and other products are minimum to non-barriers to the act of breastfeeding. So when you're breastfeeding, you don't have to worry about, would I have enough water to breastfeed baby because baby just latched to the breast? Do I have enough money? breastfeeding comes straight. You are the source as the mom for breastfeeding, and with some exceptions, there's minimal to any need for extra products for the act of breastfeeding. Breastfeeding also provides comfort during what can be a stressful time for both mom and baby, or baby and family overall, and continues to offer the best developmental outcomes for baby. The next tip is to express breast milk by hand. If depending on the situation, if you are used to pumping and you have an electric pump, just for example, and there's your power source goes out or electricity goes out, in this case, or in the case that a clean pump is unavailable, you can express your breast milk by hand. We understand that although their breastfeeding in itself, it eliminates the need for other risk factors that might have other barriers. We do understand that there are barriers that family may face during the natural disaster, a natural disaster such as a hurricane. These barriers at minimum may include, again, loss of access of clean water and electricity, as well as the onset of stress or increased stress. So to express breast milk by hand, the first step that is given by the CDC is the letdown, ensuring to encourage that letdown reflex. That could come from mom already breastfeeding baby, while baby is breastfeeding on one breast, taking advantage of the letdown reflex from the other breast, or after baby's finished breastfeeding. You can also encourage or stimulate that letdown reflex by a warm shower or warm wet cloth over the breast. And also engaging your senses when it comes to stimulating that letdown reflex, whether it's smelling the baby's head, listening to the sounds of the baby. I know my personal experience, just hearing the baby cry stimulated that letdown reflex. Looking at baby, anything that will create that reflex through mom. So the next step will be to massage the breast. Once you get that letdown reflex or stimulate that letdown reflex, then massage. You start from the outside of the breast and you go towards the nipple. Gently, you don't want to massage too hard. Again, it's supposed to be a positive stimulating experience, again, with clean hands. And then, of course, the last step is to collect and store the breast milk in a clean, covered container. That can be as simple as a jar, the baby's bottle, or whatever might be available, but just ensuring that it is clean and in a covered container. There's the graph is actually the storage guidelines. You can also find the storage guidelines on the CDC's page. You can actually just Google CDC breast milk storage guidelines, and you can find it there. And I put that there because depending on what, just to stay prepared, in the case that you may lose access to electricity, or in the case that you still have electricity, you want to take advantage of that, of if you can store it in the freezer, how much time it will last in the freezer before having to discard if it spoils, or how much time you have left after it's been in the fridge, or after you have freshly expressed milk versus if you just thawed the milk out. The next tip, I'm sorry, is if you're formula feeding, because reality is not all infant feeding families are breastfeeding or exclusively breastfeeding, which is understood, but we want to ensure that you do so safely. In the case that tap water becomes unavailable or unsafe to use, you want to formula feed, but use ready-to-use infant formula. Ready to use, of course, requires, because it's ready to use, it requires the least preparation when it comes to artificial milk or formula feed, including no additional water. If ready to use is unavailable, then ensure that safe or clean bottled water is available to prepare the breast milk. Prepare the infant formula following the guidelines on the package, usually a 1-to-1 ratio. Follow that 1-to-1 ratio. Don't give a little bit more formula than milk, than water, because water might not be available, or vice versa. You want to make sure that you follow the guidelines. Baby safety is priority. If bottled water is unavailable, just as what we identify with ensuring that safe water is available, then use water that has either been boiled and cooled after 1 minute, or disinfected or filtered. And lastly, but definitely not least, the last tip is to access your local resources. The QR code that's been in every slide is the link to our Jessie Trice breastfeeding link tree that has other links to other breastfeeding and support services. The link was just updated today with some of the resources that were identified in the slide, including resources from the CDC, access to disaster preparedness toolkits while breastfeeding, one for the breastfeeding mom and family, and the other, although it has some resources for the mom, the other one also has resources for providers and first responders and community health workers to support the breastfeeding mom and family amid a disaster or a natural disaster. So that is about it. Again, you have resources from JTCHS Breastfeeding. Also, feel free to call 786-322-6442 or text the number if during the disaster you need any assistance. You need to know how to navigate, breastfeeding, or need some tips while we're in the middle of the hurricane or before the hurricane, or even outside the hurricane. It could be weeks from now. If you need to call, feel free to call. Also, feel free to call Mommy Day WIC program hotline. They also provide, they also have a breast pump program where you can, where they loan out breast pumps, but they also have peer support specialists and lactation consultants who can assist. They won't be, from the last update I received, that they'll be open tomorrow, but virtually. So again, you could call the number and access someone, but please don't try to go out in person unless you receive an update saying that you could come in person. But I wouldn't take that chance personally, just with the weather. But if you need to call them or access them, there's the link, MiamiDayWIC.org, or the phone number 786-336-1336. And the resources, again, that was just shared today, you can find that on the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention under Disasters Infant Feeding. So please stay safe. We have our Facebook Live weekly wellness series every Tuesday at 3:00 p.m. The breastfeeding masterclass components every fourth Tuesday at 3:00 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. Again, stay safe.